Well, the obesity epidemic in America is obviously a threat to national health, but is it a threat to national security? This week, a report was released by an advocacy group called Mission Readiness that suggests this is the case. The report was titled "Still Too Fat to Fight" and connected the nation's obesity rate with military effectiveness, saying increased obesity could pose a challenge to national security as fewer and fewer people are eligible to keep up with the physical demands of the service. So that could suggest that America's waistline, as it expands, so too will the waistlines of our soldiers. You're looking at how this evolution could be playing out with the future soldier, far from boasting an athletic build. Well, it looks like that transition is happening. For those already in the service, the Department of Defense apparently spends about $1 billion a year on medical care for weight-related health problems. For more on this, Catherine Mengward, a managing editor for Reason, joins us now. Catherine, welcome. So could obesity really pose a threat to national security, as this report suggests?
You know, I'm always a little bit wary when people say that a new policy or a new law is for the children. And I think it's doubly true that you should be nervous when somebody says that this is for our national military readiness. You know, kids are fat, grown-ups are fat, that's clear. But the idea that taking...
But our soldiers aren't supposed to be fat, right?
Right. Well, but luckily, we don't have a draft. We don't all have to serve in the military. And you know, I think that taking junk food out of high schools is not going to be the be-all and end-all of American military readiness.
Well, you just said kids are fat, adults are fat, just so matter-of-factly. I mean, should we just accept that fact? Or, I mean, maybe it's not a good thing and we should try to change it.
I mean, I don't know who you mean when you say we. I think
the American people.
The American people are luckily not a single entity of single mind. I mean, if individuals want to lose weight, great. If our military only wants to accept people who are thin and fit, great. I don't think that means that all of us should be denied Twinkies at school lunch. I wouldn't eat a Twinkie, but it doesn't matter what I think.
All right, so the group is now calling on Congress to support stricter nutrition standards for school lunches. Could that be the answer?
I actually think that's one place where government intervention is completely acceptable. School lunches are terrible, and they're basically mandatory, or they're foisted on kids who have no choice but to be in school and have no choice but to eat the lunch for the most part. So yeah, I think it's great that those standards are improving. At the same time, I think, you know, a kid buying M&Ms at school after having their government-approved school lunch is not really the business of 300 you know, generals and admirals who have gotten together to release this report.
All right. So now 1 in 4 Americans, young American adults, are too overweight, though, to join the military. So we are seeing that this problem is kind of spilling over. And the number one reason that preventing adults from, young adults, that is, from enlisting. So we see that there is a connection there.
There is, but there are actually lots of other reasons people can't enlist, including that they have a criminal record. A lot of those people have criminal records for drug convictions. So I think you might equally take this report as evidence that we need to rethink the way we're fighting the war on drugs, you know, or we need to rethink our requirement that you have a high school degree to enlist. There's lots of ways we could broaden the pool without having to read up the nation's waistlines.
All right. In addition to this report, we had 300 retired generals and admirals. They signed on to indicate that the obesity problem has become a serious issue for national security. So we have some pretty high-ranking members saying, hey, listen up. This obesity problem could be affecting our safety, our national security.
You know, I think a lot of those guys are the same guys who thought that the war in Iraq was a super great idea. And I think many of them turned out to be wrong about that. They might be wrong about this, too.
All right. So, I mean, what solution do you propose then?
You know, I think that this is always has been, always should be a matter of individual responsibility. If people want to lose weight, that's great. There are tons of ways for them to do that. There's, you know, multi-billion-dollar industry devoted to helping them do that. I think that school lunch nutrition should be improved. And I think education campaigns are a good idea. But I think bans on soda sizes, bans on junk food in schools, that kind of thing is more of a symbolic act than something that's actually going to help. And I think the military readiness thing is just another rhetorical move on the part of people who want to restrict our choices.
Okay, but it is a fact that Americans are getting fatter, and along with getting fatter comes, risks of heart disease, risk of diabetes, a risk of all kinds of health problems. So we see this trend; it's becoming more and more of a problem. At what point do you say this national epidemic is a problem, and we have to step in, we have to do something from letting it to prevent it from getting worse?
I think if we genuinely get to the point where we cannot stock our armed forces with men and women who are physically fit, first of all, that's the least of our problems as a nation, if our health crisis has gotten that far. But second, not to be overly flip about this, but isn't this what boot camp is for? I mean, if you take a bunch of 18-year-old men and women and make an effort to get them into good physical condition, maybe that's going to cost a little more money. But I think the flip side, where we're saying we have to revamp everything about American nutrition and take away choices, isn't a better option.
All right, boot camp, not as many potato chips or laying off of fat and calories. I guess you have to decide which one is less painful. We put up this image there. I want to bring it up. It kind of shows the evolution of the American soldier. Let's put that up. I think it just really, there it is, the evolution of the American soldier. Typically they're fit. We see, from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to World War II to the Vietnam War. I don't know at what time Twinkies became available and, things along that nature that contributed to the expanding waistline. But we have that image there. I mean, could that be our soldier of the future, Catherine?
I think actually, if you were to look at the sort of underlying physical health of a Revolutionary War soldier versus, our typical soldier today, I'm going to guess that guy is actually not in better health. I'm certainly not an expert on this, but infectious diseases, genetic diseases, there are all kinds of things going on back then that we actually have great cures for now and that don't afflict people anymore. The fact that we have a little bit higher cholesterol or a little bit more padding around the middle, I think it's easy to overstate the extent to which that actually undermines our national security.
That is a very, very good point. Just because you're skinnier does not mean you're healthier at all.
That's exactly right.
Catherine, thank you so much for weighing in on this topic. That was Catherine Mangoard, managing editor for Reason.
Thanks for having me.